topic is why opportunities matter more than money. And people will say, hold up, I don't get a job for opportunities. I get a job for the money. It's all about the dollar bill, y'all, as the song said. But when it's all said and done, you can work a job for money. You can get paid millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can be a thousandaire, if you will. But if that's not your passion, if that's not what pushes your button and makes you want to get out of bed, you'll be most miserable. You'll have a lot of money in the bank, but you'll be most miserable. So at the end of the day, during this podcast, that's what we're going to tackle. We're going to talk about how the opportunities matter, the passions matter way more than the dollar at the end of the day. Because if you're rich and you're miserable, it's pitiful living that you're existing in rather than if you're doing something that you actually see yourself doing, getting up and doing, and you would do it for free if need be. But since it does make money, why not make money doing what I love? And that's what we'll be tackling on tonight. Fellas, first question out the bat. Why might purpose driven opportunities be more valuable than financial gain?
Why might purpose-driven opportunities be more valuable than financial gain? I think sometimes what you can get from it is more more fulfillment out of something. You know, I think sometimes there are opportunities or ways or things that we go into and they're for money, and then there are things that can give us a greater what's the word, like fulfillment and like and purpose and different things like that, like something like uh I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Something like when someone chooses to take the path of being a painter or something that's non-traditional, like a work or 9 to 5 or something like that, or an entrepreneur, or to go down that path, I think sometimes those things just be more valuable because the fulfillment that you get from that is not necessarily the same or what you would get working a 9 to 5 and coming home every day and tired and stuff like that, and paying bills. I think that, for some people that fulfillment is a lot greater than the other part. So that's why I'll start with.
Yeah, I do agree with the fulfillment part. But I think it's a part that comes before this. Because I think we're starting at the purpose driven opportunities. And sometimes I don't think we necessarily understand or how to even identify purpose driven opportunities because most of us don't necessarily understand what our purpose in this world is for. What we were created for. Like, what is the thing that I was called to do? So going back to that and looking at that now, once I understand what it is I'm called to do, that kind of helps me to be able to identify those purpose-driven opportunities, and then it also helps me to quickly disassociate myself from those things that don't line up with what I'm called to do. So now going back to what Unc just said, right? That gets to the point of me feeling more fulfilled because I'm actually working in that space. It's not so much as how much money I make; it's the fact that I'm able to do it, and it has the ability to sustain me all at the same time.
Now, have either one of you ever had a job where you you made the money and everything, but when it came to purpose, you were just like, I'm just here to show up.
Yeah, my whole 20 years in the military. Just to be honest, I didn't. That wasn't my purpose. I, and I don't mean that like in a negative way, but like I was showing up to be at work. My purpose and not the reason why I went in was first of all to get away, right? So I was getting away from drama and stuff that was going on at home, and I didn't want to deal with anymore. So I was like, going to military, blah blah blah. So I did 3 years, got out, then went back in, and when I went back in, it was for my purpose to get something that I wanted to do, not like my purpose, but it was um initially to get a job or to get a skill and then get back out. But I stayed in out of fear. I stayed in out of fear because I didn't know what to do when I got out. So I was in the military out of fear. I wasn't in the military out of any purpose. I was in the military out of fear. So, oh man, what was your question again? To mess it up.
Have you ever had a job where you
Yes. Yeah. So that wasn't my purpose. I was in the military. It was a means to an end. It was trying to get to the finish line so I could have some retirement money, and having a check coming in at the for the rest of my life. That was the reason why I did that. It had nothing to do with my purpose or anything like that. So that was kind of sort of that the military for me.
So to your question, yes. Now, before I get the rest of this, I want everybody to hit the like button wherever you are, regardless of whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Go ahead and hit that like button real quick. So to your question, yes. Now, what was the reason why I was just showing up and feeling unfulfilled? Because I wasn't connected to that particular job. And I'll tell you what the job was. I was a manager at Foot Action in between my breaks and services. So, selling shoes and, clothes and things of that nature and, dealing with people coming in the store. You got people with their attitudes, people who will buy stuff to wear to the club, put their little perfume and cologne on and then bring it back Saturday morning because they don't, quote unquote, they don't want it no more. They don't fit. And, it's a challenge. But one of the things that I've learned over the years is that regardless of what it was, like even when you go back to when I took my first stint at college, and I was a no-go at that station, even when I went back and go look at that, I can't say that none of those were in line with where I am today because all of those taught me something. It taught me, my 24 years in the Army taught me discipline. Working at Foot Action as a manager taught me how to deal with people, even when they're not reasonable per se. It taught me how to negotiate when it comes down to somebody coming into the store wanting to buy something and I have to be the one to sell it to them. It taught me to listen for certain keywords in the midst of what they were saying based upon what they want and things of that nature. So there was a lot of lessons from each job, even when you talk about multi-level marketing, which I'll talk about a little bit tomorrow morning. Even when you look at that, I learned a lot when I did network marketing as well. So all of those things in some degree, shape, form, or fashion kind of prepared me for where I am today. So to your question, yes, but I don't want to say it just that simple because a lot of times what we have to realize is that back then you wasn't really mature enough to find anything other than your own selfish wants, desires, or whatever in that particular job instead of being able to research something at a deeper level.
And when I met you, what was it? Was it 22 years ago?
Something like that.
Long time ago. I didn't know it then, but I could see then where purpose was what you're doing now. It was in you then because you could see that you wanted to lead men, you want to instruct men and empower them to do certain things. And you had a standard, the standard was the standard, and you made sure you enforced the standard, but you weren't just like, do it this way. You showed love with it. You made sure, you might have had to lay the hammer down sometime because of this light is just bugging me. But you might have had to lay the hammer down sometimes, but you could see that purpose. And that's where I was like Unc for 18 years, maybe, where I didn't understand my purpose in everything. Let me unplug this thing. I didn't understand my purpose in things. So, but my final 4 years or so, I understood purpose or my purpose because I was in the Army like, okay, I'm just collecting the check and I'm just going along, get along. Let me make this 20 years so I can get out, so I can get a life, payment for life. But then when it came time to instruct, when it came time to teach, when it came time to lead in that capacity, it took me back to when we were in Iraq or wherever, where I had soldiers, I had men under me where I could help lead, I could help guide. And that was one of those things that, and the light switch went off and it stayed on, though, unlike this one, just keep popping on and off. But yeah, that purpose really matters. And I think some people really don't understand their purpose. They understand what they like to do, they understand they like money, but then they will choose the liking money over what they like to do more often than not, simply because we have things to do. Question number 2. How can saying yes to purpose over money benefit the Black community long term? Community, period.
Ooh, this one is good. Let's look at the natural progression of a thing first. I think sometimes, especially, I kind of mentioned it earlier, like in our immature years, like we tend to look at certain things all about me. And don't get me wrong, there has to be some structure, there needs to be a foundation, there has to be some development. Well, let's be completely transparent. If I'm not necessarily in that space, I'm not necessarily talking financially, but I'm not leaving financially off the table either. If I'm not in the space spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, if I'm not in the space relationally, if I'm not in the space financially, then I can say that I'm for the community all I want to, but there's no evidence that I have produced yet to even say that. So I think, especially in the space of social media, because you see it all the time, there's a lot of this happening, but there's not a lot of deeds to support that. It's just conversation. However, when I get to the point of getting to that place where I am solid foundationally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, financially as well. And I'm not saying that you have to be, having, a dump truck full of money in your backyard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're not living check to check. You're not necessarily worrying about your stuff getting cut off. Like you got excess. Now you can get to the place to where you can be for the community. You can't be for something outside of you until you lay a solid foundation inside of you. So even within the space of, let's just say, husband and wife, kids, whatever the case may be, a lot of times we look at our kids and we get disappointed because our kids look at influencers and NBA and NFL stars and things of that nature, because that's kind of like what grabs their attention. And we want to be the most influential person in that child's life. But the issue is that child has access to so much other resources to where they're seeing this and they're seeing that. Well, let me go back and consider, what did I teach my child in the early stages of their formative years? As they started to progress and develop, how did I help that child develop? When did I start to release the reins and let them go out there and start practicing the things that I'm teaching, so forth and so on? Well, if I didn't do that for my child, how do I believe that I'm going to do it for a community? If I got to that stage at a later point in my life, am I still trying to reach out and help develop my child, even though my child is an adult at this particular point in time? So I think, even though this question, although it looks like a very simple question, there are layers that go into this question, because at the end of the day, to want to do something from the community is good. But then the question that you have to ask yourself is, what can I do for the community? And I will also inject this in as well. I think a lot of us exist in the space where we're looking for the community to do something for me. Well, one of the biggest lessons that I learned a long time ago is that value in, value out, not value out, then value in. So I have to be value in the community first before I get to the point of extracting value. So wanting to do something is not bad, but get to the place to where you can do something. And then when you can do something, do it. Don't talk about it, do it. Then when you do it, eventually you can start extracting value from the community. So that's kind of like what I would say. And this is a long-term effect. This isn't just overnight.
Yeah, as you were talking, and even as I looked at the question, I couldn't help but think about the long term. And I'm thinking long term, 20, 30, 50, 100 years down the road, when I'm thinking long term, And when I'm thinking long term, I'm also thinking after maybe after I'm gone or later on in life for me. So that's what I'm looking at when I look at long term with this. So how can saying yes to purpose, if we just take that part right there, over money benefit the Black community? The purpose is that purpose, like, is the purpose going to benefit at some point? And I don't know if I'm making sense, but it kind of makes sense in my mind. So how can saying yes to purpose over money benefit? It benefits if there is something that's going to come out of it at some point somewhere down the road. Now, what I mean by that is this. Let's say, for instance, um, someone who has decided that, they have inherited some property from, mom and dad passed on, grandma died, and they passed on and they left a couple of houses or something like that. So the benefit, or maybe the benefit long term over the money, will be to, hey, let me keep these houses in the community. Maybe I'll rent them out to people in the community or something like that. And then we can keep the money within the family, within the community, or something like that. Versus when I get the house, I don't want them, and then I sell them out to the highest bidder or to a huge corporation or something like that. So if you keep it, then eventually maybe your kids can have it and your grandkids can have it, and you can start building and creating more wealth over the short-term financial gain that you may get from selling the property. So I think that, if your purpose is more about, hey, I want to leave a legacy, I want to have something for my kids long term, then that's where the purpose is, in keeping the homes or something like that in the family, versus I'm worried about the money. So mom and daddy left me these houses, so I'm gonna cash them out, I'm gonna go sell them, and then now there's no wealth. We got the money from that, but that money's only gonna last a certain amount of time, versus if you had kept them in the house, your kids could benefit from some sort of residual income. So that's kind of where my mind went with all of this, the long-term effect of it.
And I think sometimes we look at things as macro instead of starting with micro. So we look at the big picture instead of the little picture. We say, oh man, I want to do this. And we got these grandiose things that we want to do, instead of looking like, hey, what can you do immediately within the purpose thing? And that's the problem in our communities when we do a lot of complaining about gentrification. Gentrification starts with this mindset of like, okay, we gonna get out of here because I'm going to the suburbs, and I don't want to live there. I'm not willing to put in the work. And we will talk about it. We will say, hey, I want the community this and I want that, instead of actually you doing that or starting something there, or at minimum teaching. Like the scripture says, one man plants, one man waters, but God gives the increase. So sometimes we're too busy looking for the increase, looking for the fruit, instead of doing our part. We're looking at everyone else's part when you should simply do your part right now. If you're teaching a young man, if you're teaching young women, if you're doing that, the fruit will show. Maybe not during your watch, but it should show, because if they're actually learning, it may not happen on your watch. It'll show down the line. So I think that if you practice the micro instead of just the macro, then this thing will work. Because when you say yes to purpose, purpose is in here. The money satisfies this. It satisfies a need per se, and it satisfies your ego. But the purpose, it satisfies that heart. It satisfies your drive. So that's where I'm with this one. I don't know if you guys got anything else.
I do. I do. Um, Let me say it like this, because I don't care who you are. If you're called to do a thing, it's bigger than you. And what do I mean when I say that? Not only will it, and I use this, as kind of like metaphorically, not only will it feed the masses, but it's going to take more than you to actually do it. I think too many times we look at what I can do with my own hands myself, and then I will call it my purpose because that's what I enjoy doing. But I think sometimes we confuse what I like with what he said. And what he said may show up and I may reject it because this is what I like doing. And a lot of times what I like can actually get in the way of the thing that he called me to do. But make no mistake about it, if I look at what I like and I'm the only person that can do it, and I'm not saying the only person, but I pretty much assigned it to me to do, and I'm doing it and doing it well. Well, I'm ignoring this thing over here that I'm actually called to do, which requires a collaboration, right? So, one of the lessons that what I'm called to do, it's teaching me community, but I'm rejecting it. But I'm saying that this, what I'm doing, is for the community, even though I'm doing this simply because it lines my pockets. Well, if that's the core reason behind I'm doing it, it's not what I'm called to do, nor is it for the community. I'm only saying this for the community and I'm disguising it behind what I personally want. So I think a lot of times what we have to do is take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, on this hand, whether or not this is what I want to do. Because here's the reality of the truth. If I'm do what I'm calling to do, maybe this right here will show up in this anyway. So I think a lot of times when it comes down to this whole calling thing, I think what we have to do is just humble ourselves to such a degree that we become open to whatever it is that he injects in us at any given point in time, and then meditate on that and then move forward from that point on. Again, it's going to cause you to bring multiple people together, and it might put you in a very uncomfortable situation because you may have to cast vision to such a degree that they understand it, to such a degree that they adopt it. So now it is shaping and molding you. But if this is what I like to do and I want to do this right here, it's probably not a whole lot of shaping and molding going on because it's just simply what I like to do and it feeds my ego and my flesh.
You said something about the calling. I think a lot of people don't really, simply because you like to do a thing, they think they have a calling to do a thing, but calling comes with connection. If you don't have connection, you can't call it a calling. You can say it's what you like to do. And that leads me to question 3. What spiritual dangers exist when chasing money over calling?
I think, and this is me on the outside looking in, and I am not trying to judge, but I think that sometimes you can you can start creeping into the idolatry category. And what I mean by that is this. And you're chasing money, not everybody, but a lot of times people are chasing things, along with the money. I think sometimes, and I'm not saying every, I think sometimes when you're chasing money, you're chasing the thing, but you're chasing the big house, you're chasing the big BMW, or a certain type of lifestyle, and I think what happens is sometimes those things get bigger. I want more, I want more, I want more money, I want a bigger house. So now, maybe I'm not spending as much time meditating. Maybe I'm not spending much time, walking and talking like I'm supposed to. So then what happens is you start focusing on those materialistic things. And I just think, on the short term, it can start leading you to a big danger is you could start leading you down that idolatry path. So I'm gonna stop right there. I'm thinking I'm gonna come back to it, especially when you guys go. But I want to start with, I think it can start leading to idolatry.
Yep, I'm with you on that 100%. Not just idolatry. I will also add to that. That you're going to open the door for a couple of things. You're going to open the door for um, you're going to open the door for you being disconnected from the spirit, because the spirit is actually calling you to do a thing and you're ultimately ignoring a thing because you're chasing something else, kind of like what I talked about previously. So now it's like we have to look at, when I am disconnecting myself from the source, I start to burn out. I start to have all of these emotional roller coasters because I'm trying to do it under my power and things of that nature. But then eventually you're going to hit this brick wall. And when you hit that brick wall, that kind of opens up the door for I want to say it in like layman's terms, like an embarrassment. Like you're gonna get embarrassed to some particular it's almost like public ridicule, if you will. There will be some version of public ridicule because at the end of the day, what you're doing is trying to please the public instead of trying to please him. And so at that now, you're looking at all of those things that you just heard Unc said combined with the public ridicule, and then you're going to get to the point of some version of isolation because you're going to withdraw from that, and then you're going to go from the isolation, and then within isolation there's going to be some version of segregation because you're not going to end up wanting to talk with the people that you were connected with when you were, you know, in the limelight and chasing a dollar bill and it was coming in and all that other great stuff. So you're going to go through all of those different seasons, but all of those different seasons are intentional so that he can get your attention because again, you have gone a different route. You have gone a different direction. And I'll pause right there for now.
I think that spirit, if you're so attached to the dollar bill, it could lead to compromise, burnout, and misplaced identity. So you'll start to see yourself as being connected to the people, but you will end up being connected to the people with the money, the people that want to pay you. So, and that's why every few years or so, you'll see people start to go to various organizations and church say, "Hey, I'm a part of the community." Well, why hasn't the community seen you up until this point? You come around when you need a vote. You come around when you need our, yeah, let's go, let's do it. But you're in it for your gain. You're in it saying that it's for us and you're a part of the community. A few years back, a number of years back, when I was in a certain place and I seen the mayor of a city in a certain place, I'm like, whoa, we both in the same spot. I don't think you should be here. And I seen him in another place. And then next thing you know, you see that mayor on TV, on the news and things of that sort, because he was connecting himself with people that he had no business if community was his vision, if community was his purpose. But when your purpose becomes money, now you connect yourself with people that's going to line your pockets. So that will lead you to make bad decisions, saying it's for the people, but it's so that you can have a bigger BMW, as Unc said, not necessarily just your constituents. Because if you can't see the spiritual traps coming, then you should question your connection right off the rip. It's not like it's like a miraculous thing, like, oh, I didn't know I was. Yes, you did. You saw it coming. When you started compromising, then you should have stopped right then. You look like you want to say something.
Yep. I'll come back to it. As I'm looking at this question and I just read it again, I'm looking at separation and disobedience, right? And what I mean by that is this. If you are choosing money over your calling, in my opinion, when I look at this question, that means the father has already told you this is what you're supposed to be doing, Unc. I've told you this is what you're supposed to be doing. And what happens is Unc not listening. Unc is deciding to chase the money. So what happens is now I'm being disobedient. And I think what can happen is it can start causing separation, not from him to me, but from me to him. It's causing me to move away from, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be moving this way, but I'm deciding to move in the opposite direction and chase the money versus doing what I was told to do. Because I look at, if this is my calling, that means it was told to me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's not like I'm just choosing to do this versus this. No, you were told to do this, but you are chasing something in a different direction. So I think that can cause disobedience and then separation in the relationship. So I just kind of wanted to add that in there. And I started thinking about that more as you guys were talking and really started thinking about that calling piece. And I guess I went that way because, like I said again, I think when it's a calling, I think that meant that it was already told to you. What do you guys think about that?
So part of me want to say yes. The other part of me want to say no.
Okay.
And here's why I say no. It's not that he wasn't trying to get your attention for the calling. It's just that you were so consumed with everything else that you couldn't even hear what he was actually saying. And so, because of all of the distractors that you got going on in your life, you're not even giving him what he actually needs so that you can hear from him clearly. So, even in the midst of that, right? Sure, we can, in that state, it can be perceived as disobedience. But again, some people don't really know because they're so busy trying to do this and trying to make a name for themselves and trying to be important and trying to be, glorified and trying to get plenty of attention and all of that other great stuff. But at the end of the day, they're missing the fact that he is trying to get your attention. So because you're missing it, now the world has to show up, right? And a lot of you know what I'm talking about when I say the world has to show up, because now it has to test the thing that you say that you are, the thing that you say that you believe. And at this particular stage, he steps back and allow it to happen. So now, you're going to go through those things, all the things that we just heard just now. You're going to go through all of those things simply because at the end of the day, you're way too distracted to hear anything he's trying to say to you.
Here's Divine Appointment said in the chat, God doesn't direct us to go against his purpose and his will. And I would have to agree. He doesn't direct us to, but he allows us to at times. It's like when he told Jonah to go down to Nineveh to preach to those people that they may be saved. And Jonah didn't want to. He went against what the Most High said to do. But you can go against what the Most High said to do. If he's told you to go preach out there on them street corners and you don't do it and you doing all this reckless behavior, if you showed up with a prison ministry, it's still within his will and you still gonna conduct his purpose, because that's something that you can't get around when you're his. Now, if you aren't his and you doing what you want to do, hey, go on and do what you're gonna do, because you will get your reward one way or another. If you get the money, the big car, the large congregation, and all that other stuff that you were seeking, it can come to you. But if you're his and he has a purpose for you that you're ignoring, that you're exactly blatant disobedient to, then you will do it one way or another. It's like my grandmother used to say when she used to put them peas on the table, knowing I ain't like peas. She said you can eat it wet or you can eat it dry, but you're going to eat it. Meaning that you can eat it with some encouragement, or you can just go ahead and eat it and we'll have a good night. So let's give over to question 4. How can an opportunity that pays less today lead to greater provision later?
I just I couldn't help but think about go back to the military again. Or even trades. We had an opportunity to go into the military. As I look out today as a high school counselor, there are not a lot of students who qualify to be able to go into the military for various reasons. So if you meet the requirements, then you can go into the military. The military initially going in is not something that pays a whole bunch of money. If you stick in there for 20 years, that can lead to some sort of greater provision for you and your family later on down in life. There are people who started off in internship programs making $8 an hour, being laborers for plumbers and electricians and stuff like that, who are now gone off and own companies and different things like that. So sometimes we get opportunities. I look at sometimes you can get an opportunity to take a lower paying job, but what you learn, I say all that, what you do is you learn skills. While we're in the military, we learn skills, we learn leadership skills, we learn how to get along with diverse populations, we learn how to get along with people we didn't like getting along with, so we learn discipline, we learn a lot of different things, even though as privates, we didn't make a lot of money. And all of those things has led to you know, both of you guys, you know what I mean? You're leading the show today, and Coach this is his platform, you know, and his YouTube channel. So there was some leadership, and there were some things that you guys may have learned, and some skills that you guys may have learned early on when you wasn't making that money, that helped you become who you were, and to provide better opportunities, and greater provision later on in life. Just like that plumber or whoever who at 17 or 18 years old gets that internship or that apprenticeship, and working along somebody to get those skills. So I think that, you know, if I were to kind of wrap it up into one thing, this question, how can opportunity that pays less today lead to greater provision later, is because sometimes at those lower levels, you learn skills and different things that you're going to need to perform better, as you age or higher up in the company, or just later on in life, or what have you. So that's what I think.
I remember, I think I was probably like 5 years old. My grandfather, and most of you heard me tell the story before. My grandfather gave me $5, and then I took it, put it in my pocket, and then he waited a few minutes and said, "Hey, come here, son." So I went over there to him. He said, "Let me hold $5." I was like, "Mm-mm." He said, "Hold your hand out." So I held my hand out. He said, "Make a fist." He said, "Make it tight." And then he said, "See that?" He said, "Whatever you got in your hand won't come out." He said, "But there's another thing to consider as well. Nothing can get in it." When I see this word opportunity, I don't think job. I think that's a lot of I think a lot of times, and this isn't against what anything you said, because you're spot on. But I think a lot of time we're so conditioned, and I'm saying that again. I think we're so conditioned to constantly thinking about work that anything that puts us in the mindset of work, we automatically go to work. But let's be completely transparent. Some of the best opportunities that you faced in your life did not happen at work. They may have happened because of work, but mostly it happened outside of work. I would be completely transparent with you. Sure, I met some great people in the military, but it was the conversations that we had outside of it that was more beneficial than any of the years that I spent in it. So when we miss those opportunities, because I'm going back to the distractions, when we miss those opportunities, that opportunity just passed you by. I'm telling you, I've learned some lessons from great people that had nothing to do with work. Those conversations didn't happen at work. And those conversations to me were some of the best opportunities that I encountered, because at the end of the day, when I implemented what they told me, it was instant gratification. It was like instant, like I'm telling you, like just their words being implemented turned into a paycheck for me. So I'm using that as an example, but opportunities don't always happen at work. We got to get out of that conditional mindset of work, 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 work. It's like some of us are so conditioned to work that we wake up in the morning, think about work. We get off in the morning, get off in the evening, we think about work. The first conversation that we have with someone else starts with work. And I'll be completely transparent with you that people who really know me, I will stop them, or I just start giving them one word answers. Okay. Okay. Because I don't want to talk about your job all day long. That's if you don't get anything else from what I'm saying tonight, stop talking about your job so much. It ain't that great.
And you are not your job. Some people are so engulfed in work that they, what should, like, I've been in position to where I went and spoke for $25 and a chicken dinner. But that's what it was. And I spent my good gas money. That wasn't even gonna fill my tank up. 25 and I'm like, oh, okay. Now I could have looked at it, but the love from the people and the relationships that were grown, the connections that were made led to other opportunities where they say, hey, we're gonna send you over here, or we gonna mention you to this person. So I think it's a LinkedIn user. They said access to influential networks, certain jobs, put you in rooms with decision makers, investors, or industry leaders. Relationships built here can open doors to roles you never see on a public job board. Example, an assistant at a nonprofit earn less than in retail, but builds a network of board members and donors who later connect them to a six-figure corporate role. And that's how life works when you are connected to your purpose rather than always seeking the dollar bill. And when we look at the dollar bill for what it is for substance and sustenance. So when we look at it for that, it has a purpose there. It's not that it is the purpose. Some people, once we look at a job, and trust me, I was that person. I say when I retired, I was like, okay, I'm not getting out of bed for that. I'll tell you the truth. They offer me. I'm like, man, come on. I looked at it as an insult. Like, I'm not getting out of bed for that. Because I'm like, okay, it wasn't in my purpose. But so what I was trying to do, I was trying to attain some type of wealth, some type of money. But I felt that I could sit at home and I could do certain things that were within my purpose realm that would enhance me way further and much more than if I were just out here seeking more dollars.
Yeah, so Facebook user is Mr. Ori White, retired Sergeant Major. Good to see you, sir. I responded to him, so hopefully when he responds, his name will show up this time.
Okay. Question number 5. What practical benefits come from prioritizing opportunities over money?
I think I just kind of touched on them, right? There's some things that you can learn outside of the traditional linear thinking model. Some people can expand the way that you think. They can expand your mindset just based upon some of the conversations that they have. You can be taught to think larger. And in essence, it's almost like giving you permission to think larger than what you're thinking right now. Um, and so when you look at those practical benefits, things that are beneficial to you that you can actually put into practical application, when you look at those opportunities, prioritizing those times to have meaningful conversations with people that you know that number one are beneficial, speak beneficially. They don't just talk about trash TV. They don't talk about the foolishness that's happening in social media. They don't talk about what's happening. Did you see what happened on Club Shay Shay? No, I don't really care about what's happening on Club Shay Shay. I'm sorry. um, they're having meaningful conversations, and then you can exist in a space to where you both can have meaningful conversations together. Like, I don't think people realize how bad that is for your psyche to intentionally ingest that stuff. It's almost like garbage in, garbage out. So those to me are beneficial, having meaningful conversations with people who mean you well, and hopefully you mean them well as well also. That's why I keep stressing the fact, inject before you start extracting. But when it comes down to it, when you prioritize those things over just chasing money, right? Again, it creates opportunities to where, like, again, forego it for now, suffer it to be so now, because at a later point in time, there is no telling what it is. It could be the sky the limit.
Yeah, I was thinking relationship, then I was thinking work related as well. Since you kind of touched on some of the relationship piece, I would jump over to the work because I know and I get what you're saying about work. I get that. But I also understand that there's a lot of people who are still in that space of work information. So I am gonna touch on the work piece a little bit. And I think that what comes from that is what practical benefits come from prioritizing opportunities. And sometimes that can expand your network to eventually greater opportunities. When you when you know people and when you connect with people, I think sometimes those opportunities come. And I wouldn't even say that how can I say this? I don't know, man. I just think that sometimes when you like, you know what, there's an opportunity for you to go over here and get this training. There's an opportunity for you to go over here and work with these people. I think when sometimes when you take those opportunities, they may not seem like much at the time, but those connections and those relationships that you may have built with other people can provide opportunities for like the person said, for a bigger outcome. I mean, for a bigger salary. Someone talked about like a 6-figure salary coming from being an assistant in one place, So I think that opportunities like that sometimes you may not see, but I just think that honestly, sometimes having those small opportunities create allows you to create larger networks, and then sometimes inside of those networks, there are opportunities that to be had from people inside of those larger networks. So that's what I wanted to say to that.
And also, like, you can learn a new skill. You can learn something that enhances your purpose. Sometimes we think, oh, I got a purpose, and we have everything that we need. But then other people come along to enhance what you already have. And if you aren't too much into your ego or too much into self, you will take that and say, okay, I needed that. So you get people where you have relationships, as Coach talked about, or you can have mentors, Harold, or mentors that are peer mentors, where you have a skill set that I want to learn, I want to know about. And because of our relationship, some things that people have to pay for, you can sit up and not just get for free, but you have that relationship to where it's those people will bless you with the opportunity to sit up under their tutelage and just learn and just listen, instead of you going out having to pay for financial advice, going out having to pay for psychiatric advice, because you have a connection with them. Also, it allows you to be within work that aligns with your vision. Because if you have work that aligns with your vision and that's your purpose, now it's like, okay, I may not get the money right now. I may just get an opportunity to hear a person speak, to sit up under someone and just listen. And that's what a lot of us, we don't want to do. We don't want to sit up under somebody. We want to say, okay, well, I'm gonna start my own thing. I'm gonna do my own thing, instead of sitting there getting with somebody who has a like vision and connecting with them and see, hey, where can this opportunity lead us? Does this connect with me? Does your umbrella and my umbrella, do they fall in line to where we can do the same thing? Or if not, can we help one another out? And I think we splinter ourselves and spread ourselves thin because we always want to be the top dog. And top dogs are lonely. And I think in this walk, we can't have a lonely walk. And it also allows us to protect our mental and spiritual well being. Because if we're consistently chasing dollars, that's going to wear on you, because the dollar going to make you jump. The dollar going to make you bark. The dollar going to make you ask how high, because you got to seek it, because they are the ones paying it. So you got to pay to the piper.
Yeah, chicken dinners. No, but see, that was the structure I was talking about previously, right? I think even in the midst of whatever it is, like, we can all look back and say, yes, the Army provided this, the Army gave us structure, so forth and so on. And we met a lot of great people in the Army, right? There were some things that we needed during that particular tenure. Um, but then after getting that structure, I think what you find is that people start branching out in their own direction. And then they moved into different areas, so forth and so on. And then there was more structure to be found there. And I think, to your point, a lot of times we move out and we say, okay, well, I want to do this, but my structure to do this got me this far. And everybody isn't meant to be in the front. There has to be some people that are behind pushing as well. And so you, as you say, fall up under somebody and push until you gain the necessary things that you need to gain. And then what you may find is that that person is going to help you get to where you're going to go because of what they actually see in you. And I think a lot of times we everybody wants to be the leader, but nobody wants to follow. It's not sexy to follow, right? And so at the end of the day, it's, followers, they're going to complain, they're going to get frustrated. We've seen it in the Bible. But then at the end of the day, when you pay close attention to it, what is it that you're gaining in the follower position? What is it that you're not having to deal with that the leader themselves are dealing with? We've seen that in the Army as well. So it's like, there's some lessons that we could have learned back here, but a lot of times we miss those particular lessons. Other people may have gained them, right? And then moving forward, now that lesson has to resurface itself. Like, be okay with following until it's time for you to leave. And a lot of times we don't necessarily identify that it was time to switch.
You muted.
Can we pull up Miss Charlotte Jordan's comment, please? The last one. And I love this. It says, having spent years around the homeless population gave me a total different way to look at life. I learned more about myself just being around them. For one, I stopped judging them. See, when you are able to be around people in their element and you realize, like, man, and you start to see, I think the people that have do more complaining than the people that don't. Because anytime I was at a soup kitchen or whatever, those people were they didn't have a lot of the things that we complained. We complained about gas prices. We complained about how high this was. We complained about getting from point A to point B. But those people were just happy with the little things, the necessities. And that teaches a person. That's why, like, every year I like to have my grandkids. No, we got to do certain things within the community so that you won't be out here just judging these people by some of the decisions that they've made. You can have a better understanding that these people ain't all out here just to take your money. These people ain't just out here because they want to be out here. So when you are able to get around a different set of people and see that there's a certain peace that comes with not having a bunch of stuff, it kind of helps you to get along, to refocus where you are within the framework of your vision. Number 6. How do you discern if an opportunity is worth more than a paycheck or than the paycheck you're being offered?
In the most simplest form, and this is what I thought of. If it lines up with your purpose, that's one of the things I think. You know, if there's an opportunity out there, it's like, look, does this line up with my purpose or not? Honestly, I ain't got much more to add to that. That's what I got. If it lines up or if it don't, how do you discern if an opportunity is worth more than a paycheck you've been offered? If it lines up with your purpose. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet on this one because I don't got too much to add other than that.
You won't. That's the answer. You won't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for you to discern in that moment. It's for you to be like Unc just said. It's for you to identify whether or not it lines up with your purpose. That's all. If I can discern whether it's going to lead to more opportunity, then obviously I'm not doing it by faith. And if I'm not doing it by faith, then at the end of the day, you know, what are we doing? So yeah, you won't be able to discern that. You just have to trust the process.
I think once you start, and don't get me wrong, like people will come on and may think that, like, oh, y'all saying we don't need money. No, we know you need money. We know you have bills. And I mean, come on now, we're not unrealistic. But once you start looking towards the dollar sign, yet you're saying this within your purpose, you're unaligning yourself with your purpose. And it simply becomes about that. So when it comes to discernment, I think this is something that you have to go through, not come to and say, okay, let me make a choice. It's something that you have to actually be in and go through so that you can say, okay, my purpose says this is where I should be moving. Not that everything's going to be where it should be at the moment, but this is the route that I'm taking. This is where I should be looking to move. These are the people that I should be around. Not that you should disassociate yourself with everybody that's not aligned with your purpose, because sometimes the Most High will use people that are totally against you to enhance where you're headed. Same way with Joseph in the scripture. You know, the Most High will use people that aren't necessarily for him to get you where you need to be, because you stayed obedient to what he said to do and not what you or people around you want you to do. I don't know if anybody had anything on there.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was even as you was talking, I was like, I was trying to grab some more, but I'm just like, bro, it's simple. If it ain't aligning, keep it moving, brother.
And that's where we see a lot of people today, especially on social media. Social media, hey, get on and you can do this. Or we see other people do something, and man, and we see the fame of it. We see the money from it. We see those aspects that make them look good and smile and profitable. But then at the end of the day, we say, hey, man, that's what I should do. Is it? Like, did you pray about it? Did you seek guidance on it? Or did you just see it and saw something that you liked and said, man, I would like to do that? Instead of liking to do a lot of things, I think we need to, one, gain a closer walk with him. And then when you gain a closer walk with him, then you can actually hear him speak to you, speak through people, speak through his word, speak through those things that you're going through in life. And it's not all going to be good. Some people think that everything has to be strategic and straightforward. No, some things you will suffer from. And your suffering ain't in vain, as the scripture says, but your suffering is to get you to a point. So don't look at something because you're suffering in it as if you're out of line. Now, if you're suffering because of you, that's a difference than you suffering because you stuck to what he said to do.
And I'll say this. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing. I like to add a whole bunch of hearings on there. That's just me. But the thing about it is, I want to thank both of y'all, first of all, for rolling in this topic tonight, and to Coach, because I already knew about lining up purpose and stuff like this. But I remember years ago, me and Coach was having a conversation, and I remember asking him about something, and we got on a conversation about, does it line up with my purpose? And sometimes you hear things and things line up, and you gravitate or you attach yourself to those things for a while, and then sometimes you kind of forget them. And then and then we have another conversation and it comes to you again. So first of all, I want to thank both you guys for that, because I don't know, I just appreciate you guys, this conversation. And then even back then, because when I was navigating things back in the day, I had some uncertainty about things, and I wasn't sure about which direction to go about certain things. And I remember having a conversation with Coach, and and one of the things he shared was that certain things, if it don't line up, then they leave them out there. You know what I mean? And like I said, I knew that, but then hearing that again, it resonated again. And then it's been years. We heard about it and we talked about it on the show between here and Coach's Corner and stuff like this, but hearing it again, so I'm thankful right now and in the moment for another conversation about purpose and how things should be lined up with your purpose, and how there's more benefit in doing things that line up with your purpose than focusing on things that don't line up with your purpose. So again, I just want to appreciate both of you guys for that, and I enjoy just having this conversation about purpose.
Yeah. So number one, bro, you're welcome as always. I think the struggle, because we look at the idea or the notion of discerning, and a lot of times, especially when you look at this question, discerning if an opportunity is worth more than the paycheck you're being offered. Again, one of them is what I'm called to do, and the other one is what I want.
Yeah.
So what is it that we're really considering? Should I chase what I want, or believe for something different on the other side of it? That's really what it breaks down to in layman's term right now, right? And in most cases, what most people are going to do, I don't really care who you are, and you probably ain't gonna like it, right? You're probably gonna go after the money, because at the end of the day, you're gonna say, "Oh, God blessed me with this." Did He? Did He? You see what I'm saying? And I think that's the point that I'm trying to drive. Like, there is a path that you're supposed to take when it comes down to what you're called to do. But there's also a temptation that is designed to draw you off that path. And if you're not careful, what you will do is you will call that temptation a blessing from him, and you'll go around telling everybody that it's a blessing from him. They don't know no difference. It's not their responsibility to know. So the only person who believe that is you, and therefore that's the story that you're going to tell. So again, like I always say, is it true, therefore you believe it, or you believe it and therefore it's true? And in most cases, it's B. You believe it and therefore it's true. So when it comes down to being able to discern these things, number one, you got to know. You got to know without question what you're called to do. And then you have to dig your heels in the ground in that direction. And I mean, I've turned down several jobs because I'm not moving. I'm not moving to Virginia. I'm not moving to Huntsville, Alabama. I'm not doing any of those things because I don't want, and trust me, they were a significant pay raise. But at the end of the day, no, you got to dig your heels in the ground and stay firm, fixed, believing in what you believe he called you to do and stay fixed on that. And that's the only way to it, because anything other than that, like, you're kidding yourself. Like, and again, I know y'all think I'm against job. I'm against the notion of it, right? Because it's a different, it's modern day, and I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. It's modern day slavery, if I'll call it what it really is, right? If you are so consumed with it that, like you said earlier, it becomes your identity, right? But then by that same token, what we also have to realize outside of that as well is that it was good for the time that I needed it to be good. But once you understand this over here, are you willing to walk away from it for what he called you to do? And if you can't answer that question, then that tells you honestly where you are right now in your life. I'm just being 100% honest. Are you willing to walk away from that job right now? Because you know for a fact he called you to do this thing right here. And I'm not necessarily saying it's time to walk away. I'm just saying, are you willing to? Because most of us don't want to cross that path. Oh, well, I can do what he called me to do in my job at the same time. Can you really? Are you sure about that? So that's just kind of like how I look at it. Like this when we start talking about discerning, now we're talking about a whole different realm of understanding, right? That's hinged on the word faith. Am I staying here at work because it's comfortable for me? Sure it is. Especially for people like us who already retired once. It's comfortable. Let's be transparent. So, I'm just gonna land right there. I like to stir the pot a little bit. Y'all know how I do.
That ain't always that easy though, coach. But it is. It is and it's not. And I will say this, it's easier to discern, it's easier to discern when you're super connected and dialed in with your relationship. When you're at that separation and you're not as close, or you've moved yourself off of some of that protection that you've been under, it's hard because you've been praying to, oh Lord, man, we got these kids, got all this stuff going on. I need this new job. And all of a sudden that phone call ring. Hey, we got an opportunity for your brother to go do this. And you like, oh yeah, that's the Lord. I'm on it. And you out. But the thing about it, and I think sometimes people make those decisions because that connection is not as close, or it may not be there. And I think when the connection is not there and it's not close and tight like it's supposed to be, I think that's when you start having more of that struggle between discerning between what I'm supposed to do and what I'm called to do versus what I want, and all these different things like that. So that's my extra 2 cents to add on to what you're saying.
Here's my dime I'm about to throw in the mix.
Okay.
There's no scripture that tells me it's gonna be easy.
At all. So what y'all saying?
Because I'm gonna be honest. Where I was at certain places in my life when I was struggling, if there had been an opportunity being like, look, hey, you need to go over here. Because I'm gonna be honest. I know a whole bunch of, now I ain't gonna say I know a whole bunch of people. I think that there are some people that I know to this day who took an opportunity and because they thought that that's what they were supposed to do, or because it looked like that. And I'm just like, no, brother, that ain't it. and them jokers went down that path and it didn't work out for them. I'm not saying I'm psychic or anything like that, but I'm just say that I've seen where people, at least what, I don't know, who I think may have gotten outside of their calling or what they were called to do and go down a different path and then not work out for them.
So what y'all saying is, if I find that wallet with $1,000 in it, I can't say, "Look at God," because that's what we do. You hear it all the time. I'm like, "Well, God ain't concerned about your doggone, and He ain't gonna use you to hinder somebody else. That's somebody else's money." But our warped mind will look at the dollar. It will see those things as checks. Like, okay, I checked that block. I checked that block. Instead of you looking at like, man, am I being obedient? Period.
If I see the wall on the ground, I can't be like, won't he do it?
No, you can't be like one. That's stealing. That's stealing, man. It's because it's hindering somebody else. But when we're looking at discerning opportunities and stuff, I can't sit up there and say somebody else's loss is my gain. So it's my job to say, okay, let me get this to who I want. Now, if they give me a penny, cool. If they don't give me anything, I'm still good because I've done the right thing. And when we think about doing the right things more versus doing what pleases us, because the right thing that had nothing to do with my vision, my mission, my path, or my purpose. But if all of us has one job when it comes to being within the realm of the Most High, and that's servitude. And we all like to be served, but at times it's like it's hard to get us to serve other people who we don't think deserve it. We gotta think that they deserve it. We gotta see, like, man, they can get it themselves. They can do this. They got hands. And once you start having that type of mentality, that type of attitude, where you have zero gratitude unless somebody's doing something for you, that's when you got to check yourself. You got to check. You got to be able to check yourself. Or if I'm like that, these brothers got to say, "Hey, bro, you walking the thin line." I got to have people in my life that can check me. But a lot of us don't want that. We want to be the big guy and you be the little you. But we got to have people that can check and say, "Hey, man, that wasn't necessarily right," to get you back in right standing so that you can stand firm on what he said, not on just what you want to do. But, I think Miss Charlotte, hey, she been on it tonight. She said, when we are truly focused on doing what we are called to do, it's not about money, but about doing his will. And that's a true statement right there. Because when you focus on doing his will, you realize that no matter what happened, if it's somewhere that I gotta go, I may not have the money right now, but I get there because it's his will. And now faith has to come up where it's something that I'm not seeing it. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I'm standing firm on what you told me to do. See, a lot of us, we stand firm on what hey, somebody told you when you go to the VA, eat a bunch of crackers and go in there in some raggedy clothes and this, that, and the other. That's what I heard when I was coming out. I'm like, man, I ain't doing all that mess. I'm gonna go in there with the facts, and it is what it is. But when you listen to those people, you get what those people can bless you with. But when you listen to the Most High, you'll get what He has for you. And if He has this for you, cool. If He don't, cool. But you got to be content with what He had versus what somebody else said you can get from some type of a deception. Question number 7. What are the benefits of choosing financial gain in certain seasons?
I got a question about the question.
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about choosing financial gain over what I'm called to do?
Yes.
Ain't no benefit. That's it, and that's all.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm waiting on. Oh.
I mean, I'm with the same. I'm the same way. Ain't no benefit. Ain't no benefit. I kind of already had an answer prepared. So,
He said,
but
"Ain't
at
no
the same,
benefit,
there is
but."
no benefit. But I will say, if you hadn't added on that portion of it, here's how I was here's how I was going to respond. I'm off during the summer. I work 9, 10 months out of the year. I'm off during the summer. If I have a whole bunch of debt because I wasn't diligent over my resources, and I want to take that time for one year, maybe 2 years, to go work Uber or Lyft or get me a part-time job to dig myself out of that financial um, situation, and to eventually long term have some sort of less stress in my life, like that. And that's why I said that. But when coach added on to that other piece, then it shut down my answer, because there is none, just like he said. So that was it.
I mean, I only added the other piece because that's what we were talking about all night. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But like I said,
and
without the other piece of the calling and stuff, then yeah, I think it's okay to, get a part-time job or something like that for a season to help get yourself out of financial debt or something like that, because that can cause, less stress in your life in the future or whatever. I don't know. But just doing something that can cause less stress later on down the road. But like
Mm,
Coach said, eh,
I don't know.
go ahead.
I know some people who did that and they found themselves in another tax bracket and they got a different level of stress.
That part too.
and
I went in
also,
another tax bracket, not even on purpose.
if you weren't financially responsible with what you had, 9 times out of 9, you're not going to be financially responsible for what you gain. So you
Mhm.
will say, I'm doing this for that, rather than cut back on what you're doing in the first place that puts you in debt. So when it comes to purpose, purpose has to be purpose. It's an overall thing. It's not something that you can pick and choose to pick up when you want.
Mhm.
See, I think we like if it's purpose, my purpose wasn't to get money. You just made your purpose the money. Once you say, I got to get another job so that I can pay this, so that I can do that, because you done compromise within yourself to say, okay, yeah, if I do this, then I'll be able to. And a lot of us have done it. I know I've done it. Say, man, if I get more money, I'll be able to pay more on my bills. So I get it, But what I do when I get more money, I find more stuff to buy. I find more ways to spend it instead of doing what I had to do in the first place with what I had. So coach, he see, that's why he get paid the big bucks, because he like, hold up, now that's a trick question. So I definitely love that. And even if we were talking outside of that, and you were talking like you talking without that passion part and everything, do we work more, spend less time with the family, spend less time doing what we say we're called to do? You see how the work part continues to take us further and further from doing his will to seeking our gain. So that's where you got to like, okay, is this taking me further away from him and my calling? Because I can, like a lot of us when we retired, we could have went overseas and got a bunch of money for just going overseas. No time with family, kids raising themselves. You come back, you don't know them. You come back, your voice isn't the same, and you get over there, and you will say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that," but 9 times out of 10, you don't. You just say it because it convinces you that it can be done, so it makes it more palatable for you to actually make that decision. While at this, all the while, you're just saying, "I'm not going to do what he said to do." That was my decision. Number 8. How can we teach the next generation to value purpose alongside prosperity?
I'm a firm believer in practicing what you preach. And I know that, I don't know, I'm modeling this right here. So when I got 3 sons, when they see me modeling value and purpose, you know what I'm saying, over the prosperity and over this and this and this. I think that can be beneficial. Yeah, I think modeling. I don't know why I just keep wanna stick with the modeling piece. Like again, with three boys, they're getting a whole bunch of information. They're getting bombarded with information from this platform and from this platform. And they're in the military, so they got friends, and they got my son's got sergeant majors. You know what I mean? That they can reach out to. Um, they got sergeant first classes. They got officers. They're around other people to where they can get information from. And I think that with all of that, there are going to be some good information and some good things that they're going to gather from all of those different people that they come in contact with, similar to what we did in our journey in the military. We gained information and knowledge and value from other people in the military. And I just think that modeling that type of behavior, or modeling just that in general, is one of the best ways to help teach the next generation. I honestly think that the reasons why my sons went into the military is not because I had a whole bunch of conversations, but I modeled, and they have a blueprint of what life can look like if you decide to do 20 years in the military, be back on the job thing again. But I have shown them a blueprint. I've just modeled something that can be beneficial to them. So I just think modeling behavior at the end of the day is a good way that we can teach the next generation to value purpose alongside prosperity.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So what does that modeling look like? I think that's where we struggle the most. Trying to be a model for our children to emulate. And I go back to teaching them, raising them up in his standards, right? Teaching them what his standards are, so that they will have the proper mindset when they become older. I think John gives us a great blueprint of what that looks like. It says the word became flesh and dwelt among us. So that's what modeling looks like to me, to where the words that I speak becomes the word that I emulate. So if I am teaching you his word and I'm emulating his words at the exact same time, then that's what that modeling looks like. And I also think, and this is kind of a little on the boundary of the conversation, we got to stop demonizing words that's in the Bible. Right? We demonize words that are in the Bible all the time. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing that? And the word that I'm talking about is prosperity. Prosperity is in the Bible. Stop demonizing the word prosperity, right? We understand what some people are doing in the pulpit. We got that part. We understand that they're saying that if you do this, you pay for this, then God will give you that. That's not biblical. That's what they're doing. And we've titled that prosperity preaching. That's not prosperity preaching, right? Preaching about prosperity is preaching about him, about the Most High prospering you. So there's nothing wrong with the word prosperity, but we have to get out of the notion of demonizing the words that he actually used to empower us. So now teach him what he said, me modeling what he said, and then teach him how that with that right relationship in right standing to seek, hunt him and all his righteousness, and then he will reveal to you over time what you're called to do. Then you stay laser focused on that. Don't go to the left, don't go to the right. You stay laser focused. Somebody's going to show up, try to pull you out. Nope. You stay laser focused. And that's the thing that will lead you down the path of righteousness and prosperity.
I love it, because I will just hinge on what you, brother, said, because I wanted to touch on the prosperity piece, because I'm with you, how it's taught in the prosperity doctrine. I think that when you teach that, it has little to do with money. Prosperity has to do with your health, your peace, your the impact that you have on relationships, your acts of service. See, if I can have prosperity in those areas, then me learning as Coach was saying, me having this connection and me having all these things because I've learned how to be a base and abound, as the scripture, as Paul said. Because now I can sit up and say, man, I have these things and I'm appreciative. And it shows in my everyday walk. It shouldn't be something that shows up when I get a paycheck, or it shows up when I'm going to get a car, or it shows up when I attain some type of wealth. I prosper as I learn. I prosper as on here. I'm prospering because I looked forward to being here because my brothers were going to be here, because the chat was going to be here. So I'm like, man, this is encouraging for me and encourages me to continue on in my walk, continue on in this race. So the prosperity portion of that, how can we teach the next generation to value purpose alongside prosperity? I think you have no choice but to live it out. Because when you live it out and show it, like, hey, my purpose includes prosperity. It's a one for one. It doesn't come if I do, and well, if you do this, you'll gain this. No, if you are obedient, if you walk, it's just like if you exercise, you will gain strength. It happens. You ain't got to do nothing but do that one thing right there. If you do these exercises, there will be some type of growth. So I love where you went, and I'm just hinging upon what you guys said, because it speaks little to monetary gain. It's not about your monetary gain. It's more about the spiritual than it's matter of fact, it's all about the spiritual, but even your money is spiritual when your purpose is in him. Question number 9. How does faith guide our decision making when money and mission seem to conflict?
The word that keeps popping in my head is trust. And the way trust keeps coming up in my head has something to do with, like, if I have faith in something, that means, if I have faith, that means saying that I trust in the way I'm looking at it. So if I trust in something, then I'm trusting. If I have faith in something, I'm trusting the process. So when it comes to money and mission, well, my trust in who I believe in that faith is going to decide whatever it is I'm going to do. So the conflict is not necessarily not this. Hold on, let me back up. I think our faith guides our decision making when it comes when money and mission seem in conflict. Kind of goes back to something I said earlier. Where is your level of faith? And some people say, well, either you have faith or either you don't. And then some people will say, well, faith is on a spectrum. So if we're just for this point, I'm going to say that faith is on a spectrum. So I think that if you have a low amount of faith, then you have a low amount of trust. So versus if you have a high level of faith, you're going to have a high level of trust. So I don't know. I'm somewhere in there about the trust and the faith piece, and how all of this works together, and how your level of faith is going to determine what you do when it comes to this. But I think at the end of the day, if you have faith that all of your needs and stuff like that are going to be worked out, then it's not hard to make a decision. It's like, if I'm presented with something from the Father about doing this, then this is what I'm going to do. Even though it may look like that it may not work out financially, I'm having faith and trust that this is the right decision that is being made at the end of the day. I may have said a whole bunch and I may have started rambling, but that's where I'm going to end at. I just looked at the time.
Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. How does faith guide my decision making? Because I stay rooted in hope. The hope that I got is the hope that in what he said, his promises. So as long as I keep my eyes fixed on what he promised, money is not an issue. Money is not the concern. The mission should have never been outside of what he promised in the first place. So the mission should have led me in the direction of him. So if the mission is in conflict, then that should have been changed a long time ago. As long as I keep my eyes focused on what he promised, that is my hope. My hope comes from him. He is the one that gave me the hope. Therefore, now I am fixed in that and I do not waver. I do not change. So when money is in conflict, that's okay. I'm not paying attention. I'm sorry. When money is short, I say it that way. For us realistic folks out there, when I got more month than money, I'm not looking at how much money I got in the bank every day, because the more I put my eyes on the money that I don't have, the less I have my eyes fixed on what he actually said.
And mine was, I said that God is the ultimate provider. And if you have your faith in him, that means you have your trust in him, as Uncle was saying. So if my trust is in him that he will provide, a lot of us say it, we'll call him Jehovah this, Jehovah that, and we'll attach things, that attributes to him that he is, instead of actually attaching ourselves to him, where we can trust what he or who he said he was to us, to his children, to those that believe, those that follow. So instead of doing that, we will say, okay, well, man, I wonder if I do this, and we'll say, well, payday loan, I pay them next month, and then you continue to put yourself in a rut, and you go in the book of Haggai, and they talk about having a bag, you put your money in a bag with holes, and instead of realizing that if you are obedient, he will reward you. He is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. So when you can diligently seek him, that means when I'm frustrated, I seek his voice. When I'm mad, I seek his voice. When I don't see the money in the bank, I seek his voice. I seek what he has to say about the situation, and trust in what him. Now I can't do the opposite of what he said and expect for him to bail me out every time. Because sometimes you got to bump your own head and realize that you put yourself in that situation. So it's not something for you to play with and think, okay, well, if I blow all my money and then I'm looking to him, no, you're not. You're tempting him. You're not trusting him, and it's a difference between tempt and trust, and that's not what we were called to do. We go on to the final question, if you will. It's not even a question, but it's for you guys. What is one personal story where choosing purpose over money blessed you in ways you couldn't have even predicted?
Man, this is right out of something that you already talked about earlier about going overseas. When I got out of the military, those opportunities were there too. As air traffic control, them joker was offering over $200,000 to go overseas. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, man, I can go over here for a couple years, make this money, all of this stuff like that. But that wasn't in my cards. You know what I'm saying? My purpose was to be here and to not go overseas. I had complained for years how certain, being stationed overseas and being deployed to Iraq and being in Korea and stuff like that, how all those things, cost me certain things in my relationships with my son. Because when you gone for 15 months, gone for 12 months, here and there and stuff like that, those things, and then this was pre um all of this internet and click, you can reach out to somebody. So this was pre all of that stuff. So and I also had a conversation with a close friend who had just retired, and we kind of was retiring around the same time. And one of the things that his path was to go overseas and to get the money and to get the bag and stuff like that, and that's what he chose. And I chose to go into the education system and choose a lower paying job. But again, it allows me to have my summers off, spring breaks, and have some of those times, which are a lot more valuable to me now where I'm at in my life than having the 250 $300,000 a year job. So because like you said, I put in that time for 20 years, so I still have something coming in. So um yeah, man, my personal story was about making that decision, you know, when I got out about which direction I was going to go. Was I going to go the contractor route for a few years and dabble over there and go back and forth? Or was I going to stay put homestead and to find something locally? So that was definitely, and I couldn't have been more happier, blessed, all of those things by making that decision. And I don't even look at what life could have been like if I went down that path. This is the path that I was supposed to be on, and this is the path that I'm on, and it has blessed me in, you know, more ways than I can predict. So, or share.
I don't mean to sound cheesy or corny, but you're looking at it like this is a part of it, right? Sure, I could have gone the direction and pursue my first degree in project management. I could have went and got a PMP. I could have done all of that with the Project Management Institute, been a project manager for a contracting company, any of them, to be honest with you, because once you get the PMP, pretty much sky's the limit. But that wasn't what I felt I was called to do. And then eventually I got to the point of doing this, but there was a foundation that needed to be laid prior to coming here. So if you've known me for years, I was not the person that would get behind the camera. I was the person that would run from a camera. And if you pull one out to take a picture, I'm like, nah, not me. You know what I'm saying? That was me. And the next thing you know, and Unc, you remember when we first started having this conversation. But it was something I had to get over. It was uncomfortable. My first couple of episodes, I did them recorded because I didn't want to be live. And Roland, you was part of that. Unc, you was part. Unc, I think you was my first interview, first or second, I can't remember. But yeah, but then I had to get over that as well. So it's like every step of the way, and that's why I keep saying if you're doing what you like and it's comfortable, I'm not 100% sure, right? It's an old saying that we used to say all the time. God does not call the equipped; He equipped the called. So at the end of the day, the thing that you're called to do, He is going to equip you to do it. That way, you can't brag and boast and say, "I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that." And what I'm finding is that not only has He equipped me up to this point, but He is still equipping me. So like Unc said, yeah, I couldn't be, and I'll add this last piece to it and I get off of it because I see what time it is. Like, I find joy in doing this now. I look forward to every Friday night. I look forward to every Saturday morning. I look forward to every Sunday. I look forward to every Tuesday. Those are the things that I find joy in doing. And I think I'm doing it with the people that I find joy doing it with. So that's my answer.
Man, I think I used to host young men's group first, and then it just started where they would just come to the house, and I was cutting their hair, and I would just like, hey, if they didn't have certain things, I would help. But I learned that the relationships that I was growing with them, it forced me to, one, I had to spend money, because now if I'm pouring into them, I'm bringing them over to, I got to feed them, and I'm cutting their hair. And some of them I was helping clothe and put shoes on their feet. And so I'm looking at I could have looked at it like, man, I'm spending too much money. But I'm with Coach, if your purpose doesn't cost you anything, it's definitely not your purpose. It's just something that you like to do, and it's a convenient place for you to be in. But when it's your purpose, it's going to cost you, because those relationships, they didn't just stop then. So when they call me, even on today, when they call me and say, hey, I'm doing this and I'm moving in this fashion and I'm doing this, to tell me the accolades that they have today, if they graduated college or if they had a child, if they're proposing or getting married, those are the things that I look forward to, because I was a part of helping rear them. I was a part of helping them become a man, per se, because somebody had to help me see it. And if I can do that for them, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm walking in my purpose. That's all we got for tonight. We have went a little bit long, but we're going to roll over right into our final thoughts.
Final thoughts on the topic of why opportunities matter more than money. One of the things that I've learned in my journey and my walk when you is that opportunities are always going to come. One of the things about having a father that that you have a good relationship with is that they always want to do for you. They always want to provide you with opportunities, you know. So for me, my final thought is I'm happy and thankful and blessed to have a father that wants to pour and wants to give me opportunities. Now, I'm not talking about my biological father because he passed in 2018. But I just think that when you have a good relationship with your father, and I think that opportunities are gonna always come. I think that when you have a good relationship with the father and y'all speak and y'all are very close, you will always be tuned into the frequency to be able to hear those opportunities. So, and then, like as someone said, that I think when you have those opportunities, you know your needs and you don't worry about the money. You don't worry about all of those other things. When your relationship is good and when you're dialed in and when you're tapped in to the Father and things are and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you don't necessarily have to worry too much about anything, you know, because all of your needs are already going to be provided for. And then opportunities are always going to be there. So if I were to wrap this up with just to stay focused and stay committed on your walk and your journey, and a lot of things will take care of itself. That's my final thought.
I greatly appreciate this question. I mean, not this question, this conversation. Um, I think it was really good. I think we live in an era right now to where the focus, especially of a lot of young adults, is money, 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 money. That's the focus. Like that's their driving motivation behind the things that they do. And my issue or my concern with all of that is that that's part of the distraction techniques that exist in the world today. Like you're being distracted and you can't really see wholeheartedly exactly what you're being called to do. You can't hear the voice of the Most High when He is trying to speak to you. Um, so I think when we look at these opportunities that present itself, these people that may show up that try to give you some nuggets of wisdom and things of that nature, I don't, I wouldn't take it lightly, take it for granted. I think it's important that you become a sponge, you become a river and not a reservoir because it was given to you and it was for you, but it's also for somebody else at a later point in time. So we have to get to the point to where we recognize those opportunities, be present for those opportunities, and then make sure that because that opportunity came to me, I do not rob somebody else of the opportunity to pass it along to them. Again, opportunities, I think we look at opportunities as kind of like a resource. But go back and read the scriptures. Like you don't want to miss out on those opportunities because just as though it was given to you, it can be easily be taken away from you. And that is my final thought for the night.
In a world that measures success by what's in your bank account, the Most High calls us to measure it by what's in your obedience account. Financial gain can sustain a moment, but purpose sustains a lifetime. Choosing opportunity over money isn't about rejecting provision, it's about trusting the provider. When we seek the Most High's kingdom first, the right resources will follow. And when we make decisions rooted in purpose, we don't just earn a living, we build a legacy that money could never buy. And that's where we are. So, once again, I thank you. I told you, I miss y'all. I did. And I appreciate my brothers. And, I've been gone. I'm like, man, I was antsy, but and I know we have a lot of things going on. And Miss Crystal Everett, keep it flowing in the chat so that you can keep abreast of what's going on with us to follow along. And I know Sunday we will be on the Voice of Reasons platform over on TikTok. So that's at 11:30 Eastern time. Reserve your free. See, she keeping us abreast of everything, letting us know what's going on. And if you want to pay attention even more, totalmindsetshift.com. You can follow along and see everything that's coming up. Anything else, guy?
No, I just want to kind of reiterate. Tomorrow morning we start at 8 o'clock. So if you have not reserved your spot yet, click on that link that Crystal just put in there, and make sure that you reserve that spot. I'm gonna leave it open for a while, but then I'm gonna close a little later. So don't be blindsided because you see it on YouTube and you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna watch it on YouTube." No, I'm trying to tell you, get register. Click on that link, register. That way that you will have access. Because again, 3 speakers and a Q&A. And again, like Lisa said, it's free. We're not charging anybody for showing up. So make sure that you get your ticket.
That's all. Till next time. See you out on this platform next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.